today's video is one that I've wanted to make for a long time now. I have something that I just need to get off my chest. It is the best 4K discs of 2023. I know that sounded a bit like I was going to do an apology video, but no, seriously, I'd been meaning to make this video since mid-December, but as I was compiling my list of the best 4Ks of the year, I would notice that I was missing certain ones, ones that I should have seen. Oh, I'll watch that before I do the list. Oh, I'll watch that one and that one. And then suddenly we find ourselves at the end of January and I still haven't done a best 4K video of last year. So I'm finally going to do it, and this is it. As it was the year 2023, I've picked 23 4K discs to include in my top list of the year, which sounds like an awful lot of discs and films. However, last year was such a great year of releases that I'm only really just scratching the surface with this list. There's lots of things that I didn't watch, so if you have any personal recommendations for 4Ks that aren't in my list, then please drop them on a comment. So, number 23 of the year, we're kicking it off with Training Day. Classic film now, starring Denzel Washington and Ethan Hawke. This is the 4K disc from Warner Brothers, and it looks excellent here. It really does. I was very surprised with how this looks. My wife and I recently started off a Denzel Washington season, so we've been watching lots of his films. This was the one we started with, and it was a great start, a great presentation on the 4K disc. Number 22, this one's coming from Australia. It's The Last Wave from Umbrella Entertainment. This is the Peter Weir film, which I think not enough people know about. It got a 4K release from Umbrella. They only did a Blu-ray version of this a couple of years ago from the same restoration, which looked excellent. However, the 4K version is now the one to go for, and what a film. I love this so much. At number 21 is the film Bloodsport, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Iconic movie. I absolutely love this one. And the 4K presentation on this Cape Light Media book is beautiful. I don't think this has a US release, but you can get it in Germany and in the UK. And I highly recommend it if you're a fan of this film, because it looks so authentic. It's a beautiful presentation and such a great film. At number 20, it's Ferris Bueller's Day Off, an iconic movie that got an upgrade last year. Everyone knows this film, a John Hughes classic, part of the 1980s canon at this point. The 4K upgrade is very good indeed, and the colours really stood out to me. Of course, the red of the car. The addition of HDR over the older Blu-rays is just astonishing. The clarity in the picture as well. I was so happy with how this upgrade looked. Number 19, this one might surprise a few people. It's Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. This is an animated film following on from the Batman animated series from the 1990s, which I loved as a child. And now as an adult, looking back at the series, seeing all of the influences from classic Hollywood film on the animation style, it is beautiful. And this film was a real surprise to me. I'd never seen this. I didn't know how much emotional depth was in this movie. The 4K presentation retains that classic animation look. There are some sequences where the animation is zoomed in and that's baked into the film. So in those sequences, the film kind of drops in quality. That's not a problem with the 4K disc, just how the film looks. Highly recommended to any fans of Batman and animation. And there's a great special feature documentary on Kevin Conroy, who was the voice of Batman in the animated series. Number 18, something a bit different to Batman, is the film Gregorys Girl. This is the BFI 4K upgrade of Bill Forsyth's classic Scottish coming-of-age film. Quite simply, it's about this teenage guy who fancies this girl and he is trying to win her over. A classic story that we've seen over and over again, but this has such a unique Scottish charm. Great dialogue, great characters, and it looks beautiful on the presentation on the BFI 4K. Number 17, it's Jango, Sergio Corbucci's classic spaghetti western, presented here on a 4K disc from Cult Films. This came out very late in the year. This was a December release. Arrow Video released this film on a 4K disc in the US a few years ago, and I wasn't able to get my hands on that, but I did get my hands on this, and the film looks excellent. This release does not have HDR, whereas the Arrow version does, but I have to get that Arrow version to actually compare the two. For me, this looks beautiful and a very good presentation, including a feature-length documentary with Quentin Tarantino talking about Jango, Sergio Corbucci and spaghetti westerns. Number 16 on my list is Babylon, the Damien Chazelle movie that came out at the end of 2022, but it got a 4K disc in 2023. This is a stunning film, which I think very quickly died critically. People really didn't praise this film, which was a huge surprise for me, given that people loved La La Land and Whiplash and First Man from Damien Chazelle. And by all accounts, he was looking like he was going to be the hottest director in Hollywood for, the foreseeable future. However, this film absolutely sank, and it's such a shame. I think it is excellent. I love this film. It goes into some very crazy, dark, deplorable places. So I love the film, and the 4K is a great disc. Number 15, one of my all-time favourite films, Dazed and Confused. This got the 4K upgrade from Criterion last year, and I was a bit apprehensive about this. Some of Criterion's 4K upgrades have not impressed me all that much. However, the Dazed and Confused presentation is beautiful. So much better than the older Blu-ray, if you ask me. Much more detail in the image. The Dolby Vision HDR grade really does help bring those colours out in the film. Unfortunately, no new special features on the disc, which, Criterion do that with all of their 4K upgrades. It would have been great, on the 30th anniversary of this film, to hear some new discussions about the film, but alas, it was not to be. Number 14, The Others. This is the Studio Canal 4K version of the film starring Nicole Kidman, the ghost story Haunted House. This is a film that really suffered on some of the older Blu-ray discs, so to say that the 4K is an upgrade is a massive understatement. It looks beautiful. There's no HDR on the disc, which some people pointed out as perhaps being a negative. I don't think it needs it. And, we're seeing this more and more now. A lot of these films are restored in 4K without an HDR grade in mind, and they still look very good indeed. I have not seen the Criterion 4K disc yet, though I'd have to imagine it looks very, very similar because I believe it is from the same restoration source. Number 13, it's Martin Scorsese's After Hours from the Criterion collection on 4K. This is a film I had never seen because I was waiting for a good Blu-ray or even a 4K. It finally came. And what a film. After Hours is seeing such a reappraisal. I've seen many people say it's their favourite Scorsese movie. So this is such a great thing to see that restoration work and new discs are really helping keeping films alive, giving them a new lease of life. So yeah, After Hours, absolutely loved getting this in the collection. Number 12 is a 4K restoration that I did not think was going to blow me away, but here we are, it absolutely did. It's Sleepy Hollow, starring Johnny Depp and Christina Ricci, a stunning horror, kind of atmospheric, folky, gothic tale. Watching it on this 4K disc was a revelation, because a lot of the film is in darkness, to help create the atmosphere and the mood. And this is something that 4K excels at, really helping films that are dark actually look great in their darkness. It was shot on film, so it looks beautiful, has this filmic look. I was just so impressed by how this disc looks. And it really gave me a new appreciation of the film itself, because for years it's a film that I hadn't really held in too high esteem. But now after watching it on this disc, I just absolutely loved it. Number 11 is something from our friends at Arrow Video. It's Blood and Black Lace, the Mario Bava classic, beautifully colourful film. And when I saw it was getting the 4K upgrade from Arrow Video, I was fantasizing about how the colours would look on the disc. Not only is there so much detail in this, but the Dolby Vision grade really does help those colours. It looks stunning. If you're a fan of Italian genre movies, you have to see this. This is one of the all-time greats. I unfortunately wasn't able to afford that many Arrow Video releases from last year. I think I just got this one and The Last Emperor. I don't think I got any other ones, which is a real shame. I'm hoping this year I can somehow scrape together some money to get some more Arrow Video discs. But I'm so glad I got this one because it is stunning. Number 10, another Criterion disc. It's Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, getting a 4K and a Blu-ray release from Criterion. I'm so happy it got a release because this was a Netflix movie, one that I saw on Netflix for the first time. But having the disc here is such a great thing. Not only do you get, the packaging, special features, but the actual presentation of the movie is stunning. This is a great retelling of the Pinocchio story. It's quite dark in places, but the animation, which is a stop motion, is just beautiful. It's such a good film to watch, and the colours and everything are, I loved this presentation, which is why it's one of my favourite 4K discs of the year. Number 9, I had to include this on the list. It's The Wicker Man on 4K. This is the Studio Canal UK Collector's Edition. You get 3 different cuts of the film. You get the final cut, the theatrical cut, and the director's cut, all on 4K, tons of special features, a really cool design on the box. I did a full review of this set. If you want to go and see more about this, do go and check that out. But this is such a great presentation of the film. Again, the 4K presentation made me appreciate this film even more. And yeah, just one of the best releases of last year for sure. Number 8 on the list from Paramount, it's The Truman Show, another Peter Weir movie because we had The Last Wave earlier in the list. This is one of my favourite films from the 90s. This is one that early on in my cinematic journey, I remember it blowing my mind. After watching this film, every young person has the same thought that this could be happening to them, and it sends you into a spiral of existential despair. But regardless, the 4K presentation is beautiful, absolutely stunning. The detail in the image is so fine, you can see everything. This absolutely blows the older Blu-ray discs out of the water. So I'd say if you were thinking about upgrading this film from one of your older versions, absolutely do not hesitate. Number 7, from Kino Lorber, we got 12 Angry Men, Sidney Lumet's directorial debut, one of the greatest films ever made, if you ask me. And the 4K disc is a great one, absolutely stunning. It's from a 4K scan of the negative. You've got Dolby Vision here, really helps the contrast in the black and white image. So much detail in the characters' faces. And this is a film that really gets you in there, gets you close to the characters because they're in this confined space of one room for the whole movie. The disc really is exceptional. On the special features Blu-ray that's included, you get the William Friedkin remake of the film from the 90s, which is such a nice bonus as well. This blows the old Criterion Blu-ray presentation out of the water. So yeah, a fantastic one of the greatest films ever made. Number 6, another one of the greatest films ever made, Touch of Evil, the Orson Welles film. This is the Eureka Entertainment Masters of Cinema 4K Blu-ray. I know that Kino Lorber did a 4K release in the US. I haven't seen that, I can't compare. I believe they're from the same sources. However, I'd be very surprised if the mastering and the encoding that's present on the Eureka disc could be beaten, because this is such a beautiful presentation. You're presented with 3 different cuts of the film across 2 4K discs. Some people thought that this would be an issue, cramming 3 versions of the film onto 2 discs. In actual fact, I believe there's some kind of special way of branching the films so that it actually works having them on 2 discs. That's more technical than I can explain here. There's a whole host of great special features. There was a booklet in the release as well. The only reason that I would keep the older Blu-ray disc around is that the alternate aspect ratio versions are not included on the 4K disc. So if you're an Orson Welles Touch of Evil purist, you probably want to keep that older Blu-ray as well. But this release, just absolutely incredible. It really makes me so happy at the state of physical media now that we're getting such fantastic releases like this on 4K. We move into the top 5 now. Where's the list gonna go? What's gonna be included? Well, you don't have to wait too long. Number 5 is this one. This is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the Tim Burton movie. This is currently only available in the Paramount Scares Volume 1 box set, which is a real shame that it's just available there, because this is one of the absolute greatest upgrades that I've ever seen from an older Blu-ray to 4K. If you compare the 4K presentation here to the Blu-ray which came out, 15 years ago or whatever, it is night and day. It's like looking at 2 different films. As I mentioned with Sleepy Hollow, this is another of Tim Burton's movies, which is very dark. So there's lots of portions of the image that are completely black, or lots of variations of dark colours. and they look beautifully resolved in the 4K disc, which is not something I can say for the older Blu-ray because that is quite rough if you watch it, especially after watching the 4K disc here. The film is not going to be for everyone. It's very Tim Burton, it's a musical, but I found this to be one of the greatest 4K discs of last year. And when it does get the eventual standalone release, I do hope many people check this one out. Number 4, this was a big release in the first half of 2023. I'm talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper's classic, absolute touchstone of the horror genre. This is the Second Sight Films limited edition 4K set. Unfortunately, you can see it's banged here, which makes me want to cry a bit, but I'm sure I'll be fine because the actual disc itself is such a beautiful presentation of the film. It's quite funny that this film gets described as beautiful because it's quite grungy. It's shot on 16mm, I believe. It's not a very cheery story. It's very chilling, very scary, still so powerful to this day. Hugely influential film, and I just think it looks excellent on the 4K disc. I know that it has a German release from another company, there's a US release from someone else, but for me, Second Sight Films, they've done such a great job here, and I have to imagine if you were to compare this to the other versions, this would come out on top. Number 3 on the list. This is one that I was not expecting to be this high on my list when it first got announced. But I am so glad it is. It's a film that I imagine not many people watching this have seen, but hopefully I can do my bit and try and get that changed. The film is Branded to Kill from Seijun Suzuki. This is the Criterion 4K disc, the upgrade of their much older Blu-ray. This is a very stylish, noirish assassin movie. I'm not going to be able to do it justice here, but if you happen to be a fan of Japanese cinema or just great world cinema and you haven't seen this, please do check it out. The 4K restoration, which was done in Japan but licensed to Criterion for this release, is absolutely stunning. Crystal clear. You can see absolutely everything. One of the most beautiful black and white presentations on 4K by far. This film's not going to be for everyone. It's certainly not as popular as some of the other films I've included on this list, but for me, this was absolutely one of the best looking 4K discs of last year. Number 2, this film had to be included on this list. There was no way around it because this is one of the best 4K presentations I have seen, full stop. The film is Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan's latest film, one of the biggest films of last year. I saw it at the cinema on opening weekend and loved it. I think it's his greatest film so far, and seeing it again on the 4K disc, it just looks stunning. Christopher Nolan, he knows how to make a film. He clearly loves the filmmaking process itself. He loves film and shooting on film. He loves IMAX. And here on the 4K disc, we get such a great presentation. And watching it at home, I genuinely forgot that I was in my living room. It felt like being at the cinema again. Everything in the image looked beautiful. The audio absolutely rumbled the whole house. And, this is how a modern film should be presented on a 4K disc. And it was absolutely not just one of the best of last year, but this is one of the best 4K discs in my collection. So number 1, what is it going to be? Well, if Oppenheimer is one of the best presentations of last year, and perhaps one of the best of all time, this disc that I'm about to talk about genuinely could be the best 4K presentation I own across all of my hundreds of 4K discs at this point. The film is Avatar: The Way of Water. This might surprise some people. You might think that Avatar and the Avatar sequel is not really to my tastes, but in actual fact I think it's actually some of James Cameron's best work, which I know is a very controversial opinion. Now, the less we talk about James Cameron's restoration work, the better, but in terms of his modern movie making, he really is an experimenter. What he does in this film in particular is just some of the finest images that I've ever seen on video. A lot has been said about the sequences underwater, but they really are amazing. They look and sound so good on the 4K disc. I'm not here to try and convince you to like the film if you don't like this kind of movie, but I have such a soft spot for Avatar and Avatar: The Way of Water. I know some people were surprised about the fact that Dolby Vision isn't presented on this release. I mean, watching it, it doesn't need it. that, you know, you couldn't really tell me that Dolby Vision would improve this release in any way, because it just looks exceptional. Sounds exceptional with the Dolby Atmos as well. So I love the film, but whether you like the film or not, you have to admit that watching this disc, it is one of the finest 4K presentations you will ever see. So that was my top 23 4K discs of 2023. Do let me know your thoughts on the ones that I included in this list. Let me know what I've missed though. Do let me know what you've included in your own lists that you think should have had a place in the best of discussion. To get more 4K disc recommendations from me, just click the video that's presented on screen right now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you soon.